Somebody's going to take down this Sunday million. So let's get into it. Looking through the QB position on FanDuel. Okay, so Hurts is the highest priced guy, followed really close by Lamar Jackson. Then a little gap down to Justin Fields, Herbert, Lawrence, and Burrow. And I have to say, it's kind of different from the way that DraftKings is set up this for week one. Not super different, but a little bit. Like, I think Herbert shouldn't be as expensive as Fields. I think Fields is levels above. I mean, just look at the average. This tool is actually very helpful. The fantasy points per game. I know people don't think to look at that, but I do think it's important. Fields, averaging 20, almost 21 fantasy points per game last year, where Herbert was only at 17. So that's a legitimate difference. Lawrence at 18, although on the upswing. And even Lamar Jackson priced all the way up here. This is all a hopium price. Like, Lamar didn't do anything last season at all, really. He had a couple of good games, the 40 and the 42 early season. Then he did a whole rest of the season of 17s, 15s, and 20s. So he did not stand out as a spectacular fantasy play last year. It should be better this year. New coaching staff. There's a lot of hopium, and I'm buying the hopium and the hypium on Baltimore, but I'm just not ready to pay, Jalen Hurts money for Lamar. Jalen Hurts averaged a solid 5.5 points per game more than Lamar last year alone, and more than any of these other guys. So if I'm all the way up here, I'm playing Jalen Hurts. If I need to save a little bit, Justin Fields at 8,300 seems good. Herbert, I like his matchup this week, and it's fine, but that's just going to be for GPP stacks around Herbert for me. Trevor Lawrence, always good, but this is a low-scoring projection on this game. But listen, I like Lawrence, but again, I don't like him priced like Fields. At that point, I'm going to play Fields, or I'm going to go up to Jalen Hurts. I don't like him priced in the same zone. Let's see if we can find anybody cheaper. Tua here, I see him at 7,700. I like the spot for Tua. I love it. But again, he's a little close to Fields for me, but I like the spot for Tua. Tua with two of. If you can make a Tua with Hill and Waddle kind of stack, I like the thought of that in some lineups. Cousins is not. This makes no sense for me, this price point. Deshaun Watson, 7,400. Maybe. I don't mind it. Saving a little bit. Again, the savings aren't great enough to might as well just go with Fields for the most part. Russell Wilson, probably not for me. Geno, okay. I don't mind it here at 7,200 and some stacks. I'll do that. Sam Howell? Excuse me? I don't get that. Looks like he averaged 19 points. So he did have a good game, that one game last season. Yeah. But he needed to rush for a touchdown. He did have 5 rushing attempts. You know what? Let's keep that in mind. Let's keep our eye on Sam Howell. If he's going to do a little running, that could be interesting. He did it in the one game, but I don't know that that's what he's done throughout his career, but it's interesting. Derek Carr is always a no. By the way, note that if you watch my show, if you're subscribed to the DFS YouTube channel and you've watched my shows, I warned you for an entire season, we don't play Derek Carr. But if you went to every other tout site, they were pushing Derek Carr week after week as chalk. Okay? This guy averaged 15.5 fantasy. I don't know what more I could do to save you money. Horrible season. Never once was the nuts quarterback. Yet this guy was recommended week after week after week by touts as a great DFS play. So people talk about like, oh, I watch these touts and they recommend shitty guys. You know what? Watch me. Because you would have saved a lot of money just off of that. Matthew Stafford, no, right? Minshew, no. Richardson. It gets really gross here. Let's see if we can go down on the list here. So Jimmy G at 6,600. Definitely not Pickett. That's not a good game. Des Ridder, no, right? You got the debut of Bryce Young at Atlanta. That could be okay. Little GPP interest. I'll tell you what pops for me a little bit here is Jordan Love at Chicago. Now, I don't love Jordan Love. I don't got any special love for Love, but Chicago's defense, not good. I think that game has some sneaky upside potential. And if I need to save money at quarterback, this is probably an interesting tournament approach. I think there's even maybe a smidge of cash viability, but definitely because it's cheap enough. But tournament approach, how about Jordan Love with Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs, one of those two? An interesting start maybe throw in a little DJ Moore, like a little piece from Chicago in there. Build around that game. I like the game. Be an interesting one to build around. So Jordan Love at 6,400 is somebody I will be using, I think, in week 1 for sure. Let's see if there's any other quarterbacks or if that's about it. Yeah, that covers all of the quarterbacks for week 1. I think of this group, I'm probably going to plug in Justin Fields for now. He's got the legs. I think it's donkey to go with Jalen Hurts, but I don't mind that one either. But Justin Fields got the legs, and he's just priced. When I look at the salaries, it's just like, I'm not going to play Lawrence or Herbert or Burrow or even Tua when I could just get to Fields, in sort of a generic lineup like what we're kind of putting together right here. So the first look. That being said, of course, I will use these other quarterbacks in game stacks and tournament stacks. But I think if I had to pick, like, for example, a cash quarterback, it would probably wind up being Hurts, but I would have no problem plugging in Fields right there. It looks like Giants aren't playing on this slate. So Daniel Jones, I always look for his price as well, but they're not on the slate. All right, let's take a look at the running back position. And again, we know that on FanDuel, running back is king. Touchdowns are king. We don't have props. One of the cool things we have at DFS Army and at Sharp App, which is a DFS Army sports betting product, is the incredible Proptimizer tool where I can take a look really quick. I can just look at every player, get all the props for them. So I know the touchdown props and the yardage props, all that good stuff right at the fingertips. And I'll show that in future videos. I'll put that up so we can evaluate players together, show you how I use it. But the key thing here is we're just, this is the way too early look at FanDuel. So we're not quite there yet. We don't have props that assist us. So we're just going to eyeball these and look at who looks good at running back. And remember that the FanDuel format is very touchdown dependent. So running backs are king on FanDuel. We tend to play running backs in the flex on FanDuel. And so we will do that for the purpose of this lineup build. So let's go through this running back position and talk about these different guys. Christian McCaffrey, low scoring game, week 1, Elijah Mitchell healthy. I'm scratching him off the list, right? No. Austin Eckler on FanDuel, no. Why? Because all of his PPR upside is effectively negated on FanDuel, where it just cares about touchdowns. And Eckler had a great year for scoring touchdowns last year, so he's great. But paying $9K week 1, no. Right? I love the matchup. It's a good spot, but I don't mind it, but it's not what I'm going to prioritize. Nick Chubb is in a great spot here at home against Cincinnati. He was a beast last year as well, averaging almost 16 FanDuel points per game. No competition for touches. So he should be fine. But again, 8,600, bit of a high price. He's the third highest priced running back. It's not exciting to pick the highest priced guys. Derrick Henry coming in fourth on the list. I think that's fine. Competitive game. Derrick Henry is somebody we only want to roster when his team wins, right? Or it's going to be close, or they look like they're going to win. So I think this is that spot. They are certainly a close game. Josh Jacobs on the road at Denver. I think that's a very good spot. 8,400, a little pricey. Bijan rookie debut, 7,800. I'm good with this. I would plug him right in. Bijan, 7,800, fine by me. It's still expensive, and I think we can find some better bargains at running back. But I want, I'm fine with even taking a shot on Bijan week 1. No problem. Travis Etienne didn't really do enough last season, 11 fantasy points per game, to really justify this price point. I want their average to be 2x the salary. So if they're gonna charge 7,700 for Etienne on FanDuel, he should be averaging about 15 fantasy points per game. But at 11.3, and maybe there'll be touchdown regression, maybe there'll be other things, but he didn't have a season last year that said, hey, I should pay, look at all these 7s, 8, 12, 11, 25. Okay, a couple good games, but a lot of duds in between. So he didn't do anything last year that said pay 7,700 for him. Sorry, keeping it real. Joe Mixon, I love this spot at 7,500. Joe Mixon has no competition for touches, and we've seen him go nuts. Now, again, he's only averaging a couple more from last year, a couple more fantasy points, but that's a big difference. But he averaged closer to 14 fantasy points, which is a little closer to 2x the 7,500. And of course, last year they had Samaje Perine for most of the year. This year they don't. They have, as far as I could tell, no one as really backing up Mixon. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody won't emerge between now, which is the preseason, and the actual start of the regular season. So we'll monitor it. But as long as Joe Mixon is healthy at 7,500 with no competition, I like that spot a lot. A lot. Alexander Madison, yeah, sure. At home, good spot as well. 7,300, fair price. We'll monitor the Alexander Madison situation and just make sure that they didn't really get any competition in there. But as long as they don't, I'm down with that. Not an Aaron Jones guy at all, really, especially on FanDuel, especially with the new quarterback and all of that. So I'm going to pass on him. Kenny Walker, interesting, but I kind of want to see what happens with him and Chardonnay and all those things. So I'm not ready to commit to him at all. Ramondre Stevenson, I love him this year, but maybe not week 1 against Philadelphia, although it's fine, but maybe not. Miles Sanders, tournament play. Jamal Williams, no. Najee Harris, no. Connor, no. And here we get to some interesting spots for cheap, right? Cam Akers looked great at the end. No one likes Cam Akers. Oh, Kev, he only had 5.8 fantasy points per game. You know what? He had a nice little stretch run at the end of last season. Take a look. 18, 9, 12. Okay. 33, 14, 14. At 6,600, we need 18 FanDuel points to win a tournament, to have tournament winning value. I think, and we need about 12 just to make cash value, right? I think that's not that big of a hurdle. I like the spot. I really like Cam Akers week 1. Sorry, I just do. Now, this is the other Robinson Jr., and this is going to mess us up all season. Brian Robinson, not Bijan. Don't mess me up. Just be aware that that's the case. Javonte Williams, I highly doubt he plays. But Rachaad White is another one. Now, I don't love him. I like him a lot more on DraftKings for the pass-catching prowess. But Rachaad White at 6,400 is a starting running back for a team that will get plenty of touches. So he is in my mix for sure. Again, I like him a little better on DraftKings, but it's still fine on FanDuel. I don't think that the Bucs are going to be scoring a ton this season, but I don't think that matters. We can keep an eye on Samaje Perine. If Jamal Williams isn't ready, we might get a starter down here for 6K. I think our third running back is going to come from this zone. It could be Perine. If we find out Donta Foreman is the starter for Chicago, that's a really interesting spot. Don't forget to draft him. He's one of my favorite draft picks this year. I don't hate Rashad Penny week 1 while he's healthy. This guy is a killer I don't love it, but I don't hate it when he's healthy. Continuing down, I mean, that's about it, right? So that takes us to the end of the running back position, but it's pretty cool because we've got potentially a starter in Samaje Perine at 6K if he gets the start for his team. We've got Rachaad White potentially at 6,400 here. Cam Akers, 6,600. Really like the spot. So, if we go with some of the lower cost running backs, and again, this trio is no surprise, is one of my favorite trios to draft in best ball and all that this year. So keep that in mind. But it's a pretty good start to the lineup here. I like to go to defense at this point as I'm building a lineup. So my philosophy with defense on FanDuel and DraftKings in general is start with the cheapest viable defense. And it doesn't mean the cheapest defense. It is very specific. The cheapest viable defense, right? And go from there. So I think here the Rams at 3,200 on the road, probably the cheapest. I don't think I want to play the Bucs here. I definitely don't want to play Houston on the road. Rams on the road, okay. I don't mind it. Certainly the best of this sort of bottom end group. Let me see if there's anyone else that pops. Raiders, no. Steelers, no. Titans, no. Browns, maybe if Burrow's out. Bengals, no. Denver, no. I mean, FanDuel's really good about pricing their defenses. Usually the best ones are priced up at the top. And so, kudos to them because they did it again. Yeah, your best plays are probably, the Ravens, the Commanders. So they do a good job. This is actually predictive. So if you're looking for what defense to play on DraftKings, a good way to go is like which one is priced the highest on FanDuel. I'm going to go with the Rams. I like to go with the cheapest viable, and I think this is Rams are or traditionally have been a good defensive team. I'm taking my shot. Now we look at tight end before we jump back over to wide receiver. I want to see how much salary we have left per player. $7K. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So keep it in mind. Fanduel is a I need touchdowns format. I'm going to plug in David Njoku here. 5,600. It's too good. Just to go through the list, though, I certainly like Mark Andrews, but $8K is a lot to pay. Hawkinson was great last year. Another guy, I want to play a ton of him this season. It's a perfectly fine spot, but I just don't want to pay up at tight end when there's such a good one available down here. George Kittle, always meh for me. Dallas Goedert, fine. I think Njoku stands out so much above the rest. I'm going to go look and see if there's anybody cheaper than Njoku that I think is good. Dulcich is fine. Dalton Schultz, interesting. Chig Okonkwo, sure. Not a great team to play your tight end against, but Chig is interesting. Juwan Johnson down here, probably more of a FanDuel or DraftKings play. That is so. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy. I think Njoku is the right call here. We might adjust up our running back talent, especially Rachaad White, considering I see how much salary we have left over. So let's take a look at the wide receiver position now. Start at the top, work our way down. Justin Jefferson, always great. Good spot, all of that. You got Cooper Kupp here. Also, Cooper Kupp, while he's healthy early season, he should be the highest scorer. Even better than Justin Jefferson, I would think. Give me healthy Stafford, healthy Kupp. He'll be doing it. Tyreek Hill, also great. Jamar Chase. I like Chase in terms of like a little bit of back and forth with the Njoku play. But of course, that depends on Burrow being healthy week one. Devontae Adams at 8,200 with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not ready to pull the trigger there. A.J. Brown. Let's see where A.J. Brown is relative to Smith. So A.J. Brown, we got him priced at 8,100. And A.J. Brown does hold higher touchdown equity than Devontae Smith, but it is interesting how much more expensive they have him. Keenan Allen, again, not a good. He's not a good FanDuel play most weeks, so I'm going to avoid him. Let's look at his fantasy points per game. Yeah, he's 12.7 last year. Shouldn't be better. And man, that was a pretty good number. But like Christian Kirk down here, 12.2. Amari Cooper at 6,700, 12.2. So I mean, you can get guys like I much prefer paying down and getting some of these other guys that are kind of averaging similar fantasy points per game, but for much, much lower prices. So that's my issue with Keenan Allen. I like A.J. Brown, but again, I'd probably just play Smith. Waddle, fine. A little expensive here at 7,900, but I'm probably more going to play him in my Tua stacks. DK Metcalf at 7,700, I think, is egregious. It's too much for DK Metcalf on that team as it's set up right now. Hopkins, we haven't seen him do it with the Titans yet, so that's going to be interesting. But I'm not going to be scared off of DeAndre Hopkins because, I remember a couple of years ago I was scared off of Diggs. Like these new players, even when Hopkins first went to Arizona, it was like volume. So he's an alpha. He will be fed. Devontae Smith down here at 7,200 is really interesting because it's like bargain AJ Smith, AJ Green, right? AJ Smith, AJ Green, AJ Brown. Bargain basement, AJ Brown. AJ averaged 14.13 points per game. Smith was a little bit lower at 12.01, but a lot of that's just touchdown regression, and FanDuel does prefer the touchdown, so I understand AJ Brown is more of a touchdown scorer, so I understand why he's more expensive. Mike Williams is a really great touchdowns guy as well. This is a little sketchy, but, a tournament player for sure, but I don't hate that spot for Mike Williams. Let's continue kind of looking down the list here at wide receiver. I'm not sure if I'm going to put him in this lineup, but keeping him in mind. Debo's kind of not my guy this year. Calvin Ridley, I think, is playable at 7K. Amari Cooper. Love Amari Cooper. Love him week one. Love everything about Amari. Number one wide receiver for his team. Deshaun Watson. This is a good spot. Saving us some salary. That's even better. Jerry Jeudy here with Denver. Was coming on strong at the end of last year. Perfectly acceptable. Michael Pittman. No, I'm not trying to get wide receivers that are tied in with Robinson at all. Evans, of course, no. Deontay's more of a Fanduel thing. I like DJ Moore here, and I like the idea of him. I like Christian Watson as well. So I like the idea of DJ Moore paired up with his quarterback. I kind of like Christian Watson as well. So I'm actually going to pump him in here. And so we're going to get a really interesting stack going on where I've got a few different stacks in this lineup. And now I've also got 3K to upgrade other spots like running back. So check out what we just pulled off. I'm going to probably have to switch one of these up, but Christian Watson, touchdown machine, DJ Moore, connected to my quarterback. So we got a Fields, Moore, comeback with Christian Watson lineup, all from the same game. Amari Cooper, number 1 wide receiver for his team. We can upgrade this spot. I don't like Cooper and Njoku in the same lineup per se, but I love them both individually. You know, we can jump off of Cooper or Njoku, or we could upgrade the running back spot, which is what I'm going to do because I got 3K left here. I've got a nice stack built. So first thing I'm going to do is get off of Rachaad White, who's on the road. And like I said, more of a PPR guy, in my opinion, especially early in the season. And let's get a running back in here that maybe we feel a little bit more secure in. So I'm going to go up to, how about Bijan? I mean, Derrick Henry's in here. I've got Nick Chubb, who's really interesting. And of course, the big studs, but I'm going to go with Bijan over here. Spend a little bit more. Go with Bijan. Now, the second adjustment I'm going to make to this lineup is I love Joe Mixon. I'm leaving him in there, right? I've got Bijan here. So now I've got Joe Mixon and David Njoku. So the other spot I'm going to change is Amari Cooper. I'm going to upgrade that to a stud wide receiver. And yeah, we could go right here with AJ Brown or Devontae. I was kind of hoping to get up to like a Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson, but no, we need more money than that. I don't really necessarily trust Devontae Adams in his first week. So I'm going to go with AJ Brown here. And I'm going to call this a lineup for now, guys. So our first look, FanDuel lineup, and we got an overview of the slate as well, which is really fun. We got a Justin Fields stack with DJ Moore, comeback on Christian Watson, same game, different team. We've got a AJ Brown standalone play. Then we've got a stack of Njoku, Cleveland running back, and Mixon, Cincinnati running back. That's Cleveland tight end, Cincinnati running back. We've got starting running back Cam Akers tied in, stacked with his defense. So correlation all over the place in this lineups. Running back defense. We've got wide receiver, opposing wide receiver. We have it all. This is a beautiful lineup. I am excited. I think this is a winner, even though we're months early. I think it's a winner. So check that out. Now, reminder, if you want to get in to DFS Army, I suggest signing up for VIP right now. You will lock in 25% off the monthly dues. That is unprecedented. So our VIP package at DFS Army includes everything: the Proptimizer tool for prize picks, of course, and those type of sites, the over-under prop sites. We've got the Domination Station Optimizer. We've got the research stations. We've got cheat sheets from actual pros. Our Discord is popping non-stop. We've got core plays, cash breakdowns, ownership projections, the best projection model in the industry by far. I will put it up against every projection model. Come at me, bro. Catch you outside. Promo code NFL 2023, 25% off. I believe VIP is $79.99. You take 25% off. That's $20, $59.99 for VIP. That is less than what other sites charge just for their crappy optimizer. We have the Domination Station amongst a million other benefits to membership. We produce more winners than any other site. Get signed up at DFS Army. Also, make sure you are subscribed to this channel to get all the videos that we are going to be popping all season long.